Welcome to another episode of Lunch with the Shark. Join us as we dive deep into discussions about business, accounting, and finance to help you build a business that thrives. Now sit back and have a bite with your host, the Shark CFO, Vidal Espinosa.
Well, hello, good afternoon, and welcome to a new edition of Lunch with the Shark. I am your host, Vidal, the Shark CFO Espinosa, and I'm super happy to be here with you on another episode of our daily show. And how about yesterday? Expansion, expanding your business, growing your business, reading the signals for growing your business, and generating more revenue, generating more profits, and ultimately generating wealth for you, wealth for your retirement, wealth for your family, leaving a legacy of a amazing business. Continuing with our topic of the week, which is expansion. Yes, you guessed it. What's the opposite of expansion? You know what? Yes, it's downsizing. Not closing your business. It's downsizing your business. When should you consider downsizing your business? There's been multiple clients, trust me, multiple clients that they say, when I was selling less, I was making more. That is true. And when I was on my own, I was taking more money home. That is true. When I only had one product, I was breaking the bank and I was making a shitload of profits. That indeed, it's true. When I had only 100 restaurants, I was making more money. That it's true. Why is that? People, salaries, overheads. I turn to them and I say, yes, you might be making more, you might be breaking the bank, you might be taking more money home, but ultimately, how many hours were you sleeping? How many hours were you spending with your family? How many vacations were you taking? Nevertheless, we also must learn how to read the signals through the financial statements and through listening to our customers and our vendors and our industry as to when is it time for us to downsize. When is it time for us to downsize? Downsize, in my point of view, it's not failure. Downsizing should be considered part of your expansion project, as an exit strategy should be part of your business plan. Maybe downsizing is part of your exit strategy through your business plan that you created when you started your business. Oh, did I hit some soft spot there? Do you have an exit strategy? In my point of view, downsizing is also part of the start of the beginning of your exit strategy. Maybe instead of having 100 restaurants and realizing that your kids are not going to take over the family business, well, maybe you start selling them one by one, 10 by 10, certain numbers to certain groups. If you're doing that, make sure that you offer them top producer restaurants, including also less producing restaurants as a bundle. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the least productive and the least profitable restaurants are going to end up staying with you forever and ever, or you're going to have to close them. That's part of a strategy or analyzing how you're going to sell your business. Now, downsizing, it's not selling your business though, right? Downsizing is when a company terminates multiple employees at the same time to save money. Do you listen to that? Downsizing, it's terminating part of your team at the same time to save money. As opposite to termination of costs, downsizing is typically not due to any conduct on the part of the employee, but rather business conditions as a whole. As a whole. It's reducing costs, making a company leaner, often described as trimming the fat. This involves also, on top of reducing your workforce, plant closures, store closures, office closures, making your firm's departments more effective and productive. Shit, how do I know that? Your financial statements, people. Your financial statements tell you all that. But if you're not a doctor that can read your laboratory results, your lab tests, you're not going to be able to read those financial statements and understand what do they mean? What signals are they sending you? What signals are they telling you? Right? Again, your lab tests, results, do you know how to read them? No, you don't. You don't understand what the fuck says higher than 1% and 10,000 and 5,000, and you didn't go to school for that. Or you were not trained for that. WebMD, it's not going to tell you the truth or accurate things, right? So those financials tell you those datas that you need to understand and analyze, right? The aim of downsizing is to restructure your organization in order to make it more competitive. It is a natural process in terms of development of an organization. It's natural process. Every single company goes through downsizings, restructurings, multiple times in their life. Multiple. It's normal. Don't see it as a failure. All the opposite. See it as part of your expansion and growth. A couple of years, no, not a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, or 6, we were having lunch or dinner at a restaurant in San Diego, and the owners were friends or are friends to Jeff. And he said, hey, you know what? We have a business consulting firm. We do accounting, taxes. Vidal has restaurant experience. And the 3 owners had no restaurant experience other than visiting multiple restaurants in their life as guests. Like all of us, we all have gone to a restaurant, but not because we go a lot of times during the year to a restaurant. We are restaurateurs. And oh shit, I know how to run a restaurant. And we sat down, we presented them a proposal. We said, hey, you can do this, we can do that. We gave them a lot of nuggets, right? By seeing the operation, I gave them tons of valuable information for free because we appreciate them about the operation, right? Needless to say, less than 6 months later, one of the partners calls us and they say, hey, you know what? We are in deep shit. What happened? Well, our investors are no longer wanting to put in more money, working capital, and they're shutting us down. and we have no way of meeting payroll. We have no idea how the payroll is done. A humongous chaos. So we came in and I said, could you guys help us? Can you guys come in? We came in with a team, and the first thing that I grabbed was the payroll, right? Because in restaurants, payroll is one of the biggest expense there is in their financial statements, right? And I said, hey, could you provide me your latest financial statements? Oh, the other partner takes care of that. He's going to be here around 5. Mind you, the restaurant was closed because one of the owners pulled the plug and say, you're closing because you're losing a shitload of money on every day, right? To our surprise, they had, and listen to this, and sorry if you guys are listening, I'm not giving names or anything, right? But to our surprise, they actually had on their payroll, on their structure, they had a manager that supervised only supervise the busboy team. Busboys are the people or the team members that actually go through the restaurant picking up the dirty dishes from your table. Some restaurants do have busboys. Other restaurants, the same waiter takes the plates that are dirty, you finish, and they take them to the kitchen. In this case, this restaurant had hostess, waiters, busboys, but they actually had a manager for the busboys. They actually had, which is fine, a manager for the morning waiters, the afternoon waiters, the night waiters. They had a payroll that exceeded their revenue. They did not know their financials. It was time to restructure. Unfortunately, it was too late because they invested, they wasted it, most of their working capital on payroll, not even on rent or supplies, on payroll, because they wanted it to help the community, support people, and that's it. It was time to downsize. And they did downsize, unfortunately. Some people say downsizing differs from a layoff, with downsizing being a more permanent measure, while a layoff might include a change or a chance of rehiring the workers who lost their job at a later date. No. Today, the term layoff can mean either the temporary suspension or permanent termination of a job. If not prepared on carrying out properly, downsizing can have unpleasant repercussions for a business. You must have a plan to downsize. Like everything in business, there must be a plan behind your actions. Some business owners, we use our guts to understand and do things. Some of us have been in business for multiple years, and we know how to read our clients, our vendors, our surroundings. And yesterday, I was supposed to have a call with a possible client. I read the notes from Jeff that he handled the intake, the first front to see whether they speak to me or not. And as I was reading it, mind you, it was just like first paragraph. And I turned to Jeff and I said, hey, you know what? These people are just fishing for information. Oh, no. They want to do this, blah, blah. I said, no. Based on your notes, they already opened their company. And their question is, they want me to review their documents and see if they're doing it right. They're not our customers. They're fishing for free information to validate whatever they're doing. They never called because they actually knew, or I think they knew, that I knew that they were just fishing. You need to have a plan. It is a very common measure that business enforce during times of market volatile or poor financial performance: downsizing. Many people, especially workers in unions, say downsizing is simply a euphemism or a doublespeak of a layoff. And it's not a layoff, okay? A layoff, it's not the same as downsizing. Because downsizing, you're going to restructure your business so well that you're not going to need or require that extra fat. If we would have had the opportunity to restructure this restaurant, I would actually have cut their payroll by 2/3. Minimum. They had excess of people on their payroll actually working or not. And that killed them. People sometimes tend to be lazy. They get complacent and, hey, I need somebody to go and trash this for me. Hey, I need somebody to go and grab me my coffee. Hey, I need somebody to go and wipe my ass. No, you don't. I don't need somebody to go and trash this for me. I don't need somebody to go and bring me my coffee. I don't need somebody to wipe my ass. I can do it on my own. Thank you. 3 things that I don't need somebody else to do it for me. You don't. That's downsizing. That's downsizing. Okay? Companies typically downsize in order to improve efficiency by replacing employees with machinery, or, unfortunately, replacing or unifying a couple of positions into one, by creating also systems through machines, software, applications, reduce costs, right size resource relative to market demand. Do you think, behind me we have 3 Christmas trees because it's the holiday season, right? Do you think that a Christmas tree factory has the same amount of employees throughout the year? No, they don't. They probably don't even hire more employees through the season because they already sold or manufacture most of their inventory in the season. Take advantage of cost synergies after a merger. If it's a merger, which also happened to one of our clients, they were bought by a humongous conglomerate, and now they can't have 2 CEOs, 2 COOs, 2 CFOs. They can't. That's downsizing. Maybe the CEO from one of the companies stays as COO or as a vice chair, something to understand and phase out the downsizing. Increase profits by reducing overhead cost. Respond to a declining demand of the company's product or services. Maybe you're no longer relevant. What happened to BlackBerry? They're no longer relevant. What happened to Nextel? They're no longer in business. They're no longer relevant. It's useless, right? Business can go about downsizing in different ways. Some may go for a gentle approach by offering early retirement and the possibility to transfer to a subsidiary company. That's if you have the opportunity or the possibility of doing that for your team members. Unfortunately, for some of the workforce, the most common way to downsize is to terminate the employment of a chunk of workers. Also, you need to be very strategic on which team members you're going to eliminate. Okay? Don't terminate the CFO like that. Maybe phase him out. Don't terminate the manufacturing manager. Maybe, I don't know. Do you understand? Those in charge of downsizing will target staff and departments that are seen as redundant or loss makers. Maybe your company it's going obsolete, right? And you need to produce or come up with new ideas and new products and new services, whatever. I'm thinking that the last department that you want to eliminate would be research and development. That's my guess, right? I would probably start by cutting heads at the sales department because they're doing shit. They're not selling, right? Also, at the same time, I would start, if I produce things, I would do some downsizing on my production area, right? Warehouse, production line, but not the tops. Yes, it might be helpful, beneficial, saving money by cutting the tops and moving people from the bottom up because their salaries are going to be less. But what about the experience? You need to analyze again. If your company is going to tumble, then you don't want a humongous tumble, right? Businesses that are downsizing attempt to take the necessary steps to ensure that people who are highly valuable are kept on. However, often employees who consider themselves as key personnel, it's funny, find themselves out of a job, especially if the trimming is aimed at management personnel. How can I say this? There's people that manage the downsizing process without knowing that they are part of that downsizing. Nobody is essential or necessary in the organization at all. No one. No one is necessary or essential for the business to continue. Not even the owners. Okay? So, if you are underperforming, okay, as an owner, right? If you're just scratching your belly in your desk, or you're getting to the office at noon and leaving at 1 and not showing up in the business again and asking, like, people, you need to sell, blah, 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 and they're not selling, you are part of the problem, right? We need to analyze that. Even with preparing meticulous and carry out properly, the whole process of downsizing can be extremely nerve-wracking for employees, even for those who are kept on, because everyone starts wondering how safe their jobs are and whether they might be next or if there's going to be another downsizing. We're mainly focusing on people, personnel, human resources, because most companies, this is where the fat is. Most companies, I am not saying that all of them, most companies, this is where we can actually achieve that 20% that this client was asking for across the board, which in theory, not really in theory, in reality, was not possible. How am I going to go to the landlord and say, hey, cut my rent in 20%? They're going to turn back to me and say, hey, do you remember the agreement that you signed with us, that you still have 3 years with it, and it's fully enforceable, and you are asking me for 20% reduction, and that you personally guaranteed, and that if you default, I'm going to go after you? Be realistic on which areas you're going to trim that fat. Be realistic, okay? Now, when it comes to employment, most states are at will, okay? Even though there's a contract, negotiation with individuals, it's easier than negotiating with a landlord or vendors, a little bit more difficult, or even banks, okay? So, how should companies approach the downsizing? It is important to look at the consequences of downsizing and ensuring that the value created from trying to make the business more streamlined outweighs the potential damage of the reputation of the company and decline in employee morale. Not because you want to save a couple of dollars here and there, you're going to downsize. It can actually bite you in the end. It can actually hurt your company, your reputation, and you might end up losing your business. There are costs associating with the process. It's vital to carefully evaluate factors such as the potential lower productivity, talent loss, cost of severance package, and future hiring and training costs. Most experts say it is in the company's best interest to make sure the downsizing process is done smoothly. This can be achieved by proper planning and determining the right amount of jobs to cut, one that suits both the companies and the shareholders. Remember, everybody that works in the company, it's liable, responsible subsidiary to the shareholders, and only to the shareholders, right? So your decisions will affect the outcome of the shareholders, okay? So you need a plan. You need a plan. So what have we learned about this? What have we learned about downsizing? There's actually alternatives to downsizing. Firing people or letting people go, it's costly. Maybe instead of firing them or letting them go, you can actually offer them a position as a part-time, as a consultant, temporary work. That is probably a good option. Other times, employers may offer job sharing for some employees, cut back on employee benefits, or shorten the work week in order to retain the employees. There's a lot of ways that we can help. But the most important thing here is create a plan. Why do you want to downsize? Read your financials. Have an expert read those lab tests called financial statements for your business and make that determination. Follow us on Spotify. Spotify, where you will find all our Lunch with the Shark videos, podcasts, sorry. And what you're going to do is you're going to go open Spotify in the little search bar, search for Lunch with a Shark, press the green, the Lunch with the Shark button there, and then follow us. Press the following us. And you're going to get notifications every time we upload our Lunch with the Shark episode there. Today, we're going to end up our episode with a quote from Andy Rooney. He's a journalist, and he said, Everyone wants to live on top of the mountain, but all the happiness and growth occurs while you're climbing it. Everyone wants to live on top of the mountain. Yeah, there's an amazing view on top of the mountain, but all that happens and growth occurs while you're climbing it. It's been great seeing you today. Have a good afternoon. Bon appetit. Ciao.
Thank you for listening to Lunch with the Shark. If you would like to set up a consultation with the Shark CFO, Vidal Espinosa, visit his website www.invictus-advisors.com and don't forget to subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn.